put baddies on the records, he got cuts galore. And Diddle's on the tip-top, he give the records a chop and make the 5 MC wanna rock.
Spies, have you ever seen a human as fast as a lizard?
Check him out, party people, he's the only grand wizard.
Welcome to the first episode of District's podcast. Today we're going to be talking about colorism within the Black community. My name is Yanni.
Hi, I'm V, darling. My name is Kuriba.
My name is Kay.
I'm Soli.
And I'm Kasari.
So with these lovely ladies, we're going to be discussing colorism. So just a quick backdrop on what colorism is. It's basically internal racism within the Black community. And where it stems from is during slavery times, there was this man named Willie Lynch. And he basically came up with this ideology of like the best way to control our slaves and to have them hate each other but respect us. And basically it was like dividing the slaves based on color, based on age, based on sex. And one of the ways that plays into colorism is that they would divide the house slaves from the field slaves. So the house slaves or house Negroes were lighter skinned and usually related to the massa, the plantation owner, while the field slaves were those of darker complexion, but served no relation to like the master or anyone inside the house. But what that did was that it basically said, okay, well, if they're inside the house, that must means that they're better, that their lives are better because they're not out working on the fields all day, but yet they're still slaves. So it kind of ingrained this false idea that if you're lighter skinned, you're better because you're not in the position of those that are darker skinned, but at the end of the day, you're still a slave, you're still Black, and you're still treated the same. And how like that mentality still like has infiltrated its way into the modern psyche of Black people in America, like what that looks like. So I kind of just wanted to get into like your thoughts on colorism, how that plays a role in your life, or how you see that playing a role in Black people's lives today in America.
Firsthand and seen it firsthand, especially because like my mother is very red, so she's like fairer skinned than my siblings and I, and our dad is very dark, and so colorism mainly I would say negatively impacts women because the darker you are, the more garish you're seen as, the more like masculine you're seen as. So when you get these stereotypes of, oh, Black women are like not feminine, Black women are masculine, they're too strong, they're too this, they're too that, it's much less likely to go with a darker toned Black woman than it is a fair skinned Black woman. But I will also say this does not solely exist in the Black community, this also exists in so many different communities of color, particularly Asian, and I will say that they have some of the closest like cultural similarities to us than like most other cultures around the world. Asians have a really strong history of colorism that predates colonialism, so it's hard to like, and imperialism, it's hard to say like where is this coming from, where like in the Black community it does really stem so much from slavery, as so much of our problems obviously do, but it's also just like interesting to see how it plays out for so many people around the world and so many cultures, especially the ones that are not as specific problems, as don't have as specific issues and like roots and causes of where their internal issues come from. It's just like interesting to see like that similarity and also like to see where it juxtaposes and where it's different.
It's funny that you said that because I'm actually half Asian. So my mom is Filipino, and one time when I was younger, we went to the Philippines. And growing up, like I was aware of like my parents' differences. My dad's Jamaican, so he's Black, and my mom is like really pale. So like I was like aware of it, but it was just kind of like we're different, whatever. So we go to the Philippines, and like we went to the like grocery store. We're getting lotion, whatever supplies we need because we were on vacation, whatever we're there for. And then like I was in like the aisle and I was looking at all the bottles and I was like, oh, this one's really cute. Like I want this one, like whatever. I thought it was for kids or whatever. But it was actually like this whitening lotion, and it was like just really adorable looking, and like I wanted it. You know what I mean? And I didn't even really think anything. I read it. You know what I mean? I didn't think anything of it. I was just like a kid like buying stuff at the store. And my mom like was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like we just did it, and it was like now thinking back to it, I'm like fully like, there was like a part of me that wanted to be lighter, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to have like straight hair, I wanted to have like light straight hair, like be blonde hair, and be like light skin, and be like, I wanted to be like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of crazy that, but like right now, like at the time, it wasn't like something I was like really thinking about. It was just, I was a kid and I was like feeding into what society was putting on you.
Crazy to me how people are like, oh yeah, there's so much more diversity in media. And the idea of diversity is like, there's very, very rarely ever like a woman with like 4C texture hair. There are very few like actually like dark skinned women. I'm not talking like brown like me, like actually like very dark toned females, and that's not the case for men in the media at all. Like, there are more dark skinned brothers than there are like dark skinned sisters. And that goes with it. It's like, it's okay to be masculine and dark. It's okay to be dark if you're a man, because that projects masculinity. And what could ever be worse than like a black woman like is an effeminate black man, or like any man who's not leading up to these like patriarchal standards. But like, it's okay for dark-skinned men to be in media, and it's like celebrated really. And you see that reflected in life too, because like dark-skinned men are always more accepted into society than dark-skinned women, and there aren't that many, and there aren't that many women with like hard hair, and if they are, their hair's like cut all the way down to their head. Like, you don't see any women with like 4C or like harder hair like walking around and like being on runways or being in like movies or in television shows. And then it's like this stereotype, this standard that you have to fit into, which is like complexion of Rihanna or Beyonce. Most of these women are bleaching their skin anyways. Not going to say that they are, but like so many of them are. Like, this form, this figure that you have to fit into, this hair type that you have to have, and it's all so fake. And as much as that's true for like all celebrities in media, it's even more so for black women, because there's so much further that we have to go to achieve beauty.
I mean, I do it too, but like all complain about like, you know, award shows not awarding black artists or black filmmakers, even though their work was far more better than the white counterparts, but they get it because they're white, because they're more well known. Sometimes it happens in their favor, sometimes it doesn't. But I think for like us to make sure that we're behind our own images, because like I know how I want us to be seen in the media, I know how I want us to feel. You know what I mean? I don't want like my family members to feel like they have to maybe look like me because I'm of lighter complexion for them to be beautiful, but you're beautiful the way that you are. Like I have a couple of cousins, their father was born first generation, but his family is from Kenya, and they're like, she's like super beautiful, very, very dark skin, like doe eyes, but doesn't feel beautiful in her own skin. But she's stunning, but you don't see that because you think if you're dark skin, you're not pretty. You know what I mean? You have certain comments. I remember one time I heard my aunt say on my mother's side about my cousin Omar, who's of the Kenyan lineage, say to him, you know, Omar is really attractive for a dark-skinned boy. And it really caught me off guard, and like no one really checked her on it, but it just caught me off guard because I was like, Omar is a handsome young man because he's a handsome young man. It's nothing to do with how dark he is. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes like we get like so caught up in like skin complexion, you know what I mean? That like we'll favor one over the other, or we'll say you're more beautiful because of this, or you're not as beautiful because of this, but it's like, we have to make sure that we're behind that. And even like switching that over to hair. Like I grew up with a mother who was not into, you know, perms and texturizers and all these things like straighten your hair. Like I had locks for the first 8 years of my life. Afterwards I cut them off, wore like various froze braided styles, and went back to locks. But seeing like other young black girls with their mothers fresh out the womb, maybe like 3 years old, you're getting extensions and perms. You know what I mean? Like seeing little black girls with receding hairlines because they've been pressed so many times, and you've had braids so many times, tight, you know, so tight it's like, you know what I mean? Like little things that we do where you're not verbally saying it, but you're consciously saying it. Like you're doing things to your child to make her feel like my hair isn't beautiful unless it looks like this. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that we do where it's like we have to make sure that we're controlling our images, and that starts with like what we put out into like the media, but also starts with like how we raise like our children in our community, like making sure that I'm not against hair straighteners, but that shouldn't be a thing until you're like going to high school or something where you can make that decision for yourself. It's a conscious thing, not something you put on to children. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that they love their hair and how kinky it is, how curly it is. Like, our hair, like, this hair here can take on so many different forms. Straight hair can't do that. It can't. But our hair is malleable. It can literally do anything. I remember I met this white woman last year before I locked my hair again. She said, your afro is beautiful. She's like, it's like receptors to the gods. Literally. Black hair does that. Our hair grows up and outward. It's literally receptors. That's as long as a halo. Yes, it's our antenna. Like, when you think of it, like, I love, like, science fiction. Like, when you think of it on that level, like, that's our sensors right there. That's our history. All these curls, these kinks, these waves, those are all of my ancestors locked up in here. That's right. You know what I mean? And it's like, that to me is beautiful. Like Afro, prefix, AFR, African, our African lineage, and then O, halo. You know what I mean? Like Afro, like that's beautiful. You know what I mean? And it just starts with like how we raise our children, like what we say to each other. Because sometimes like we'll say, you have like within the Black community, we'll make little jokes with each other that can be, essential like colorism, institutionalized racism, but we don't think about it. We're just like joking about saying, oh, your mother's so black this, your mother's so black this. You know what I'm saying? Like all these little things are like, nah, she's not gonna date you because you're too dark. Shit like that. You know what I'm saying? We say to our brothers and sisters, and it's like, we have to make sure what we're saying to each other and what we're saying to our children and how we're raising our children. Because then that's gonna affect where we go in the future. And it's like, I don't want to see that. I want us to like find things within ourselves.
Recognize that within ourselves and within our own generation. And when we go and have our kids, we let them know that, that no, you can't, I always think about how like people are not okay with like black men marrying outside of the race or whatever, all that stuff. And I'm like, it's like, you can't control who you fall in love with and all of that. And I think it's really important for us, no matter what, to always tell these kids that you're beautiful. Like, it doesn't matter what anybody puts in front of you, that you're...
And instill that at such a young age so that when they do grow older, that they have a really good understanding of, regardless of what other people say and want to label me as, I am beautiful. Yeah. And you know what I mean? It's not even too late at this point, at whatever age you are. It's like, it just takes some work that it's needed for us to do individually, so as a whole we can be more powerful and positive as we project and move forward. And just one love, really.
And my cousin and I one day, she was like, oh, like she showed us this picture of my sister who's darker than I am, and she's like, you can't even see her. See, this is why you won't need to have babies with white men, so that like your kids can show up in pictures. And I was just like enraged, and I like, that was the day that I like decided, like, I don't even fucking want to have kids. Like, if that's the shit that my kids are gonna have to go through, I don't even want to, like, because just remembering what I had to go through as a child and how long it's taken me to like still suffering from body dysmorphia, specifically because I'm not thin like the white girls that I grew up with, or like I don't have, like, the boys didn't like me the way they like the mixed girls, or like, because, and I have like a smaller nose than like a lot of black people. I'm like fair skinned, like I'm brown, I'm dark brown, but like I'm not like ash black, like, and like things like that, but still always being like, people telling me I'm pretty, but me never believing it because of what I saw represented in the media, and like hearing, oh, all my girls foreign, this and that, and it's like, just exploitative of like us black women, and like exclusionary as fuck. But then also exploitative of our sisters of color who are like also being oppressed in other ways, because there's so many ways that fair-skinned women and like women of different ethnicities are being exploited with stereotypes and bullshit because of nobody wants to be black. Like, nobody wants, that's the furthest thing. Like, you can get closer to white, the less black you are as a person of color, the more white you are. And that's what we all want to achieve ultimately. Yeah. It's like, fuck that. I want to be brown, and I want all the fucking kids to want to be brown and be what the fuck they want to be. Yeah. Excuse my language.
I feel like a lot of things, come into our subconscious. I feel like a lot of things aren't even have to be said. I think advertising has a big part of is a big part of colorism. Like growing up, I grew up on the Lower East Side, so it was like pretty diverse. But everything I was watching on TV everything that I was reading in magazines or like even my dolls, like they subconsciously had pictures and women of like, even my dolls had straight hair and like lighter skin tones and lighter eyes, and like even my mom, she's blonde hair and blue eyed, you know. So like my dad is from Senegal, so he's very dark, like very, very dark. And so, you know, I had diversity all around me, but subconsciously it was just, colorism was going, it was like speaking to me in like different kind of forms, you know, of like advertisements, and it made me feel like I had to have straight hair, and it made me feel like I needed to be lighter just because my best friend, she was white, and I felt like, oh, she gets more attention from the guys. So like I would do things to destroy myself to obtain this kind of attention because I really wanted attention. And I thought getting attention and getting success was from being lighter than I already am, you know? And it's kind of confusing because I am more, you know, in ways more privileged than more darker skinned girls in different aspects, you know? And so, you know, I feel like a lot of people question, you know, how I felt, but I didn't, since I'm mixed from a Senegalese African man and a white woman, my Black experience from not learning about my African culture and ancestors confused me of where I kind of fitted in growing up. Like I didn't really listen to hip hop, I didn't really know about, you know, a lot of the things I feel like, how do I explain this? I'm sorry. Like
feeling exempt from the culture. Feeling exempt from the culture.
Yeah, like feeling, you know, kind of left out, and I really wanted to be a part of this movement. And it wasn't until I got older where I realized I was a part of this movement by just, you know, being a Black female and existing, because, you know, I didn't fit in with the white community at all. So I was like, you know, where the fuck do I fit in, you know? And high school really damaged me from feeling like I wasn't Black enough.
So I wanted to like touch base on Kudiba's part about not feeling like Black enough and what the Black experience looks like. I just know for me personally, like I'm not biracial. Both of my parents identify as Black. My father is a Black Jamaican, my mom's a Black American. So like our consciousness is Black. But for me, I feel like it's that, like Black is like a consciousness. It's like, when I say I'm a Black woman, I'm embracing all the beautiful things that come with being Black and all the things that Black people have done within this country and in the world, while also accepting that there are also negative connotations associated with being Black. But for me, I'll take the good with the bad. Like, my father's side of the family, they're lighter skinned Jamaican people. And I noticed that sometimes when I would be around my cousins, they want to attach to like the part of them that isn't Black, the part of them that doesn't bring them back to Africa, which is where we're all from. You know what I mean? And they're all, I mean, yeah, I'm well aware that my father's side of the family is mixed, but my father, and as intelligent as he is, embraces that he is Black and knows his history. And I feel like it's like knowing where we come from, knowing what our people have done in arts and politics and all these different avenues, and like embracing that, like that makes me feel like proud to be Black. Like, I have no issue with telling people I'm Black. There have been plenty of times where I've gone out and people was like, oh my God, what are you? I'm Black. No, really, like what do you mean? I'm Black. My mother's Black, my father's Black. They identify as Black, my stepfather's Black, my grandparents are Black, we're Black. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think for me, it's like, it's an experience, and the Black experience is so vast because Black people cover the whole entire globe. Outside of Africa, we're everywhere. So that experience is different, but there are certain common things that Black people do experience as one, which is one of them is racism. And then as Black women experience as one, which is racism, as well as sexism. And then within the Black experience that we all experience, which is colorism. So it's like, there are certain things that separate us, but there's also like a common, those common things are negative, but it's like, if you look at what our people have done to like make this world a better place for us, and I think for like with me, you know, when I say I'm Black, I think sometimes the reason why some Black people don't want to say that they're Black is because it's like, what does that mean? You know, like, you're more interesting if you tell me what your 5% is, what the 15% is, what the 2% is. Everybody wants to give a breakdown of their history. I'm not fortunate enough to know where all of my family comes from. But me, I feel like a child of the African diaspora, to me being Black encompasses all of those things. Encompasses my African ancestry, which wherever
and wherever else I got this complexion from and all these different things, but to me, black encompasses like everything. Like, you know, people say like the color black absorbs all colors, right? Like white repels it, but black brings everything in. That's what black is to me. I think of it like these black speakers, like it absorbs everything. I am everything, and that's what makes me proud to be black. Like I got late into like the learning my history because when I was in middle school I wasn't interested in that because my surroundings were white and we didn't have classes on that. But it wasn't until I got to high school I remember I had this class called Drop Everything and Read with my advisory, and it was every day after lunch. And my mom was like, I'm not going to be buying you new books, so you can go on our shelves in the living room and pick out a book to read. Little did I know, my mother had the autobiography of Assata Shakur. She had Stokely Carmichael's autobiography. She has this huge book on like black art from like the 20th century. All of these things on black culture that I didn't even know were on our shelves. And I've lived there. I've lived in Harlem 20 years. I've lived in that apartment 20 years, didn't even know that those things were on our shelves. And one thing that I learned is that sometimes information doesn't come to you until you're ready for it. So it wasn't until I was ready to really like dive into what being black was and what that means to be a black woman in America that I started reading those books. And I would like sit with my mother and I'd sit with my stepfather and we talk about these things. And I was like, holy shit, like there's so much. I remember reading Assata Shakur's autobiography, and she said what COINTELPRO is. I was like, yo, what is COINTELPRO? Like that, like when you read something and you don't know what it is, but you're excited to read it, you're like, you know what I'm saying? You gotta find all the resources. Right. You know, like that's what that was for me. So it's like when I say I'm black, it's like it's not because it's, you know, I'm not really into like the whole breaking down what I am. To me, black is everything because that's what black is. It is everything. Right. And when the more I learned about my history, I was like, I said, what? Being black is a shit. Like, I mean, we practically created every genre of music in this country and the world. Like, we are the influencers. Point blank, period. We influence the world. You cannot tell me different. So when I say I'm black, I wear that with pride, regardless of how light I am. I know I know who I am. I know where my people come from. I know what we've done. So it's like I'll take the bad because I acknowledge everything about us that is good, and I see the beauty in my people. So it's like I'll take the racism and sexism, no problem, because I'm so black and I so love that. So
that's right. You know? Go ahead, sis.
Words, I feel you.
To me, where I grew up in a household where I had so many things that I could have reached out and totally have benefited from growing up that were about my history. Like, even though my mom is white, she, you know, has her respect and her, you know, she reads and she went to college for civil rights, and, you know, she has respect, you know, and she also understands her privilege and her placement, you know, and it wasn't until I was older where I was able to ask for help, you know, like, just like how you said, what was that? You said sometimes information.
Oh yeah, when you're
a good quote.
Sometimes, oh wow, I wish.
Yeah, but information doesn't come to you until you're ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, my father passed away when I was in 3rd grade, and I felt like that was all of my, you know, connection to my ancestors' questions and things that I could have learned from. So when I went to school, and my name is Kuriba, it means great mother, when I went to school, people made fun of that name. And so, you know, I might tear up right now, but, you know, when people make fun of my name, they're making fun of, you know, my culture. And my father, who makes art about his experience through life, you know, his art and my mother's art both mean, you know, light over dark, you know, good over evil, and all of these things, and how they just want to help and better the world. So when he passed away, I was very confused, and, you know, instead of, you know, fighting back and wanting to dig into the information, I instead, you know, stepped away from it because, you know, there was a lot of pain there. And it wasn't until I was older where I could, you know, just accept everything that happened, because it's very embarrassing, you know, wanting to be white. It's just like, what the fuck, I wanted to be white? For what? For what exactly?
For some reason I felt like uncomfortable, didn't know where to fit in or anything. And I just remember a lot of the students around me were white and Latino, and you know, their hair, their hair color, I mean not their hair color, their hair texture was very like straighter, softer. And then I just remember always thinking like, oh, if I had that kind of hair color, or if I spoke the way their language and how they move, maybe they would be friends with me, you know what I mean? Because I was always feeling like left out in a sort of way. And just growing up, it's like I didn't, just till recently, really embrace my culture. You know what I mean? Like, I love being Ethiopian, and I'm so proud to say that. And it's like, to know that there's so many pieces of part of this world that appreciate my culture made me realize, like, yo, I should really start horning and understanding, like, why people love this. And maybe that'll help me know myself more, and which it did, and I'm thankful. And that's why I agree with what you had said earlier, how, you know, things don't come to you till you are exactly prepared for it, in a way to say. And I give thanks for that, you know, like, it makes me appreciate life a whole lot regardless.
I want to say, like, I think it comes down to, like, it's really important for us as young people to recognize in ourselves that it's a self-love thing. Yeah. Ultimately, like, all black is beautiful. It's that black experience thing. Like, we all have a different experience of what it is to be black, but it's for us to recognize that your experience as a black person is valid just because you are a black person. Yeah. Like, just, it doesn't, there is no correct way to be black. Yeah. Because, like, for me growing up, I felt like my idea of what it meant to be black was what the media was telling me. It was like, oh, there are guns and violence, or it's like lower class or something. And it's like, for me, I grew up in the suburbs where it's like quiet and it's like different. And it's like, I'm also Asian too, so it was kind of like, I didn't feel like I could, like, it didn't feel like I could relate to that. So in a way, I like rejected it, you know what I mean? But it's like, I didn't think I could apply. It's not because I didn't want to be a part of like whatever it is, because I didn't think I could apply. Like, I was allowed to be a part of it. Like, I felt like when I hang out with my cousins who live in the Bronx and stuff, they were like, they're black, they're just fully Jamaican. So it's like, it was like we were the Asian ones. So it's like, I felt like I wasn't even really black, because even my own cousins were like, nah. You know what I mean? And then when I was with my Asian cousins, it was like, we're the darkest ones there. It's just like, I didn't feel like I was really one of them. So it was like, you're in the middle and you're kind of like, damn. So then you feel like, you know what I mean? But ultimately it comes down to loving and accepting that my experience is valid as a black person. I don't need to be a certain way, like in just any other person's experience as a black person is valid, you know?
Love yourself, and if you have any sisters around you, to spread that love within each other, and that black is always going to be beautiful. Always, always.
One love.
One love.
Right on, peace, and just love each other. Give each other good, positive messages. Love yourself, know yourself. It's really important.
Love yourself, love each other, love everyone, even if, just love. Love yourself, love your hair, love your eyes, love your body language, love your voice, everything.
Like, I know how hard it is sometimes to love yourself, and how scary that can seem to like go completely against what society and what people are telling you, because we're taught to hate ourselves, and that's how these people who are in control keep control over us, is because we hate ourselves and we're listening to them. But if you just tap into yourself, and once you start to love yourself and actively force yourself every day to think self-loving thoughts and self-careful thoughts, and check yourself when you're getting down on yourself, the whole entire world changes around you. And you fall into love, and you are walking in the energy of love every single moment of your life. And that is something so beautiful that no matter what happens, nobody can take that from you. And that's what's really important. And just try to remind your sisters every day, and your brothers, that you want that for them, and be that for them, even when you can't be it for yourself, because the universe will give that back to you. And just make sure you be that for yourself.
Black is beautiful. Love your blackness, whatever it looks like, whatever it feels like. That's it.
Thank you.